They laughed. Not politely, not nervously. They laughed like the outcome was already decided. The sound echoed across the courtroom, bouncing off the wooden walls as the judge leaned forward in his chair. His eyes locked onto the boy standing beside the defendant. 16 years old. Black. Thin shoulders. Hands clenched so tightly around a stack of folded papers that his knuckles had turned white. "I'll defend my brother," the boy said. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "This court does not accept arguments from children," he replied calmly. "Sit down before you embarrass yourself." A few people in the gallery chuckled. Someone whispered something sharp. Another person shook their head. The prosecutor smiled. Not openly, just enough. The police officer beside the defendant adjusted his grip on the handcuffs, already preparing for what he believed was the inevitable. The boy's brother stood silently in an orange jumpsuit, chains around his wrists, a bruise under his left eye that hadn't been there during the arrest photos. The judge sighed and reached for his papers. "Proceed," he said. That should have been the end of it. But the boy didn't move. Instead, he took one step forward. "Your Honor," he said again, his voice steady now, "I just need 30 seconds. This time, the laughter was louder. The judge leaned back, visibly annoyed. "You've already had more than enough," he snapped. "This courtroom is not a stage." But the boy didn't look at the judge. He looked at the prosecutor, and then he looked at the jury. And finally, he looked at his brother. "Please," he said quietly, "just listen." 30 minutes later, no one in that courtroom would be laughing. In fact, no one would even be speaking. But to understand how a 16-year-old boy ended up standing alone in a courtroom full of people who had already decided his brother's fate, we need to go back to a night that started like any other, and ended with everything being taken from them. The knock came at 2:14 in the morning. Not a polite knock, not a warning. A violent oodar that rattled the front door so hard Malik Johnson jumped out of bed before his brother even had time to react. By the time Marcus Johnson reached the hallway, the door was already being forced open. Police flooded the apartment. 4 officers, weapons drawn, faces cold. "Marcus Johnson!" one of them shouted. "Get on the ground!" Marcus raised his hands. "What's going on?" he asked. "I just got off my shift." They didn't answer. They slammed him to the floor, twisted his arms behind his back, and snapped the cuffs on so tight Malik heard his brother gasp. "Malik!" Marcus yelled. "Go back to your room!" But Malik was already standing there, frozen. "What did he do?" Malik shouted. "You got the wrong person!" One officer turned toward him. "Sit down!" he barked. "Now!" Another officer began reading the charges. Armed robbery, aggravated assault, use of a deadly weapon. The words didn't make sense. Marcus shook his head. "That's impossible," he said. "I was at work. Check the cameras. I didn't rob anyone." They didn't check anything. They dragged him out in handcuffs while neighbors peeked through cracked doors and glowing phone screens. By sunrise, Marcus Johnson's face was everywhere. Not as a suspect, as a criminal. And no one bothered to ask if the story was true. The first jail visit almost broke Malik. Marcus walked into the visiting area slowly. His posture was different, his confidence gone. One eye was swollen. His knuckles were split open. "What happened to you?" Malik asked, his voice shaking. Marcus forced a smile. "It's nothing," he said. "Just a misunderstanding." But Malik knew better. Someone inside had spread a rumor that Marcus had hurt someone during the robbery. That kind of rumor doesn't stay quiet. Guards didn't stop it. They rarely do. That night, Malik went home and didn't sleep. Instead, he opened his laptop and started looking for the truth. Malik didn't go to school the next day. He couldn't. Every classroom felt too small, every voice too loud, every laugh sounded like mockery, even when it wasn't. By noon, The rumors had already reached his phone. "Your brother really did it?" "I saw him on the news. They say he hurt someone bad." Malik didn't reply to any of them. He went straight home. The apartment felt empty without Marcus. Too quiet, too still. Malik sat at the small kitchen table, the same one where his brother used to help him with homework after late shifts. The chair across from him was empty. That's when Malik made a decision. If no one else was going to listen, he would make them listen. He opened his laptop, not to watch videos, not to escape, to understand. The first thing Malik searched wasn't the crime. It was the prosecutor, Evan Brooks, assistant district attorney, fast rising, well-connected. Malik clicked through case after case. Conviction, conviction, conviction. Almost no losses, almost no dropped charges. Malik noticed something else, too. Most defendants looked like Marcus. Young, black, working class. Malik didn't jump to conclusions. He kept reading. Appeals, civil complaints, quiet settlements buried in legal language. Words kept repeating. Withheld evidence. Improper lineup. Eyewitness inconsistency. Malik leaned back in his chair. This wasn't random. 2 days later, Malik met Marcus's public defender. Her name was Angela Perez. She looked tired, overworked, buried under files stacked higher than her desk. "I'm doing everything I can," she said gently, "but the evidence doesn't look good." "What evidence?" Malik asked. Angela hesitated. "There's a witness," she said. "Says he saw your brother run from the scene." "Did he know Marcus?" Malik asked. "No." "Did he see his face clearly?" Angela sighed. "It was dark. He claims he recognized him anyway." Malik nodded slowly. "What about cameras?" he asked. "There's footage," Angela said, "but the prosecution only submitted a short clip." "How short?" Angela paused. 30 seconds. Malik felt something tighten in his chest. "Can I see it?" She hesitated again. "Officially, no," she said. "But—" She turned the laptop toward him. The video was grainy, dark, zoomed in too close, a figure running, a jacket, a blur. "That could be anyone," Malik said. "I know," Angela replied, "but juries don't always see it that way." Malik stared at the screen. Then he asked the question that made Angela stop breathing for a moment. "Do you have the full video?" Angela looked away. "They didn't give it to us." That night, Malik didn't sleep. Again. He searched city records, traffic cameras, public safety databases, maintenance logs. Most people didn't know this, but some traffic cameras archived footage automatically for 30 days before deletion, unless it was flagged. Malik checked the location of the robbery. 3rd Street and Harrison. 1 traffic camera, 1 private security camera on a closed storefront. The city camera was flagged. The private one wasn't. Malik's hands shook as he filled out a public records request. He didn't expect an answer, but at 3:47 a.m., his email notification chimed. A link, a download. Malik clicked it, and his heart stopped. The video was 15 minutes long, not 30 seconds, not edited. The robbery happened at exactly 9:18 p.m., but at 9:02, Marcus was already on camera, at work, clocking out. Malik rewound the footage again and again. Timestamps didn't lie. Then he saw something else. Another car, parked across the street, engine running. The prosecution's clip never showed that. Malik whispered to himself. They cut it out. The next morning, Malik returned to Angela's office. He placed his laptop on her desk without saying a word. She pressed play. 30 seconds in, she froze. At 5 minutes, she covered her mouth. At the end, she leaned back in her chair, eyes wide. "This changes everything," she whispered. "No," Malik said quietly. "This proves they lied." Angela looked at him. "How did you get this?" Malik didn't smile. "I listened," he said, while they laughed. Angela didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She didn't even sit down. She stood by the window of her office, staring at the street below like she was trying to calm a storm inside her chest. "This isn't just about your brother," she finally said. Malik looked up. "What do you mean?" Angela turned around slowly. "I've seen this before," she said. "The edits, the missing footage, the rushed charges." She walked back to her desk and opened a thick folder. "Evan Brooks doesn't lose," she continued. "And he doesn't lose because he's brilliant. He wins because no one ever checks his work." Malik clenched his fists. "So how many people?" he asked. Angela hesitated. "Too many." That night, Malik went deeper. He wasn't just proving Marcus was innocent anymore. He was proving something bigger. He pulled court transcripts from public databases. He read testimonies word for word. Witnesses who, remembered clearly, suddenly forgot details on appeal. Timelines that shifted by minutes, just enough to fit the story. Evidence that appeared late, or not at all. And every time, the same name appeared. Evan Brooks. Malik created a folder on his laptop, then another, then another. By dawn, he had 12 cases, all similar, all rushed, all involving black defendants, all relying on eyewitness testimony. Malik leaned back in his chair, exhausted. "They didn't just take my brother," he whispered. "They built a system." 2 days later, Marcus called from jail. "They offered me a deal," Marcus said quietly. Malik's stomach dropped. "What kind of deal?" "Plead guilty," Marcus replied. 5 years, out in 3. Malik slammed his hand on the table. "No," he said. "You didn't do this." Marcus was silent for a moment. "You don't know what it's like in here," he finally said. "They don't care if you're innocent." Malik swallowed hard. "I know," he said, "but I also know something they don't." "What?" Malik looked at the screen full of files. "They made a mistake." The next court date arrived faster than Malik expected. The courtroom felt colder this time, sharper. The judge took his seat. The prosecutor arranged his papers with practiced confidence. Marcus stood in chains again. Malik sat behind him, silent, until jury selection began. That's when Malik noticed it. Every time a black juror stood up, the prosecutor raised his hand. Peremptory challenge. Again, and again, and again. By the end, only 2 black jurors remained. Malik leaned toward Angela. "He's shaping the room," Malik whispered. Angela nodded. "He always does." Malik looked around. This wasn't a trial. It was a performance. During a short recess, Malik approached the back wall where case exhibits were displayed. One photo caught his eye. The eyewitness, Thomas Walker. Malik stared at the image. Something felt wrong. The witness had claimed he was hiding behind a dumpster during the robbery. But in the video, Malik found the dumpster wasn't there yet. City maintenance records confirmed it. The dumpster arrived 2 days later. Malik felt his pulse spike. "He wasn't hiding," Malik whispered. "He was involved." That night, Malik searched Thomas Walker. Criminal records, rental agreements, parking violations. Then he found it. A short-term rental contract. Vehicle, dark gray sedan. License plate partially blurred. Malik cross-referenced traffic records. Same street, same night, same plate. Malik's hands trembled. Walker wasn't a witness. He was an accomplice. The next morning, Malik walked into Angela's office with a single folder. Angela opened it slowly. Her eyes widened with every page. "This is dangerous," she said. "It's already dangerous," Malik replied, "for everyone who stayed quiet." Angela looked at him for a long moment. "You know," she said softly, "most grown men wouldn't have done this." Malik didn't respond. He just thought about his brother and the laughter in the courtroom. Angela didn't submit the new evidence right away. That surprised Malik. Instead, she locked the folder in her desk and looked him straight in the eyes. "If we hand this over now," she said, "they'll bury it." Malik frowned. "But it proves Marcus is innocent." Angela nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, "and that's exactly why we have to be careful." She explained it calmly. If the prosecution saw the evidence too early, they would. Claim it was obtained improperly, argue it was irrelevant, or quietly adjust their story to survive it. "We don't fight them head-on," Angela said. "We let them walk into it." Malik understood. This wasn't just a trial, it was a chess game. The next hearing was about motions, technical arguments, legal language, boring to everyone except the people whose lives depended on it. Evan Brooks stood confidently. He spoke about timelines, about certainty, about how the facts were clear. Malik watched him closely. Every time Brooks mentioned the eyewitness, he grew more animated, more confident. Malik leaned toward Angela. "He's leaning too hard on Walker," Malik whispered. Angela nodded. "Good," she replied quietly. "Let him." Outside the courtroom, Malik waited. Not for lawyers, for records. He had filed 3 more requests: phone metadata, parking citations, contractor vehicle logs. At first, nothing came back. Then, late one afternoon, his phone buzzed. A reply. Malik opened the file and felt his breath catch. Thomas Walker's phone had pinged a cell tower less than a block from the robbery site, 16 minutes before the crime. Not hiding. Waiting. Malik whispered to himself. He was early. Malik brought the information to Angela. She didn't react immediately. She just stared at the screen. Then she closed the laptop. "This is it," she said. "What?" Malik asked. "This is what breaks him," Angela replied. "Not because it proves your brother's innocence, but because it proves Walker lied under oath." Malik swallowed. "So what now?" Angela stood up. "Now," she said, "we let him testify." The courtroom filled again. This time, the mood was different. The prosecutor looked relaxed, almost pleased. Walker took the stand, hand on the Bible, voice steady. He told the same story: dumpster, shadow, clear view of Marcus's face. Malik sat still. Angela didn't interrupt. She let Walker talk, let him commit, let him lock himself into the lie. Then cross-examination began. Angela's voice was calm. "Mr. Walker," she said, "you testified that you arrived at the scene during the robbery, correct?" "Yes," Walker replied. "And you were hiding behind a dumpster?" "Yes." Angela nodded. "Do you remember signing this statement?" she asked, holding up a document. Walker squinted. "Yes." "And you swear it's accurate?" "Yes." Angela turned to the judge. "Your Honor," she said, "I request permission to introduce supplemental evidence." The judge nodded. Angela pressed play. The traffic footage filled the screen, timestamp visible. Walker's face changed. Angela paused the video. "Mr. Walker," she said evenly, "can you explain why your phone was recorded near the scene 16 minutes before the robbery?" Walker froze. I don't remember," he stammered. Angela nodded. "That's interesting," she replied, "because your phone remembers." The prosecutor stood up. "Objection." "Overruled," the judge said. Angela continued. "Isn't it true, Mr. Walker," she said, "that you were not hiding, but waiting?" Walker's mouth opened. No sound came out. Angela held up another document. "A rental agreement," she said, "for a gray sedan parked across the street." Walker's hands began to shake. Angela took one final step forward. "Mr. Walker," she asked, "were you a witness, or were you part of the crime?" Walker looked at the prosecutor, then at the judge, then down at his hands. "I invoke the fifth," he whispered. The courtroom exploded into whispers. The judge slammed his gavel. Order was called, but the damage was already done. Malik felt it. The laughter was gone, replaced by fear. The courtroom didn't calm down after Walker invoked the fifth. It fractured. Whispers spread from bench to bench. Jurors leaned toward each other, confused. A few people in the gallery stopped pretending this was entertainment. The judge called for a recess. As soon as everyone stood, the prosecutor rushed to his table, flipping through papers with shaking hands. For the first time since the trial began, Evan Brooks looked unsure. Malik watched him closely. Brooks avoided eye contact. That told Malik everything. In the hallway, Angela spoke quickly. "They'll try to contain this," she said. "Damage control." "How?" Malik asked. "They'll argue the witness was unreliable," Angela replied, "or that his silence doesn't change the rest of their case." Malik nodded. "But it does," he said. Angela looked at him. "Yes," she agreed, "because now the jury knows they were lied to." When court resumed, Brooks stood first. He cleared his throat. "Your Honor," he said, "the state requests that Mr. Walker's testimony be stricken from the record." A murmur rippled through the room. Angela stood immediately. "Denied," she said firmly. "The jury has already heard it." The judge paused, then nodded. "Denied," he said. "Proceed." Brooks swallowed hard. He pivoted, changed tone, began talking about circumstantial evidence, about patterns of behavior, about how absence from the scene does not prove innocence. Malik listened and smiled for the first time, because Brooks was doing exactly what Angela had predicted. He was running. Angela rose calmly. "Your Honor," she said, "before the state continues, I'd like to submit an additional exhibit." Brooks stiffened. Angela pressed a button. A new video appeared on the screen. Security footage. Different angle, clearer. Marcus Johnson was visible, inside his workplace, clocking out at 9:04 p.m. The robbery happened at 9:18. Angela let the timestamp sit there, untouched, undeniable. Brooks stood up. "Objection!" he barked. "This footage was not properly—" "Sit down," the judge snapped. Brooks froze. The judge turned to the jury. "Members of the jury," he said, "what you are seeing is time-stamped evidence verified by city records." He turned back to Angela. "Continue." Angela didn't rush. She let the silence work. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "the state asked you to believe that Marcus Johnson committed a violent robbery while he was being recorded miles away." She paused. "And they knew that." Brooks slammed his pen down. The judge called another recess. This time, jurors were escorted out quickly. As the room emptied, two men in suits entered quietly through the side door. Not lawyers, not court staff, federal investigators. Malik's heart raced. Angela noticed them too. She leaned close. "They're watching," she whispered. Back in session, the judge's voice was colder. "Mr. Brooks," he said, "did the state possess the full security footage prior to trial?" Brooks hesitated. "Yes," he admitted. "And did you submit the complete footage to the defense?" Brooks opened his mouth, closed it. "No," he said quietly. The room went still. The judge leaned forward. "That is a serious violation," he said. Brooks tried to recover. "It was not intentional." "Enough," the judge cut in. He turned toward Angela. "Ms. Perez," he said, "do you have anything further?" Angela looked at Malik, then back at the judge. "Yes," she said. "We do." She stood and nodded to Malik. The courtroom turned toward him, the same 16-year-old boy they had laughed at. Malik walked forward slowly. No shaking hands now, no hesitation. Angela spoke clearly. "Your Honor," she said, "this evidence was not found by a team of investigators, but by a 16-year-old who refused to accept a lie." Malik placed the folder on the table. The judge stared at it, then at Malik. For a long moment, he said nothing. Finally, he spoke. "You may proceed." And for the first time since this trial began, Malik Johnson was officially heard. Malik stood at the front of the courtroom, feeling every eye on him. Just 30 minutes earlier, those same eyes had laughed. Now they were searching his face for answers. The judge adjusted his glasses. "You may speak," he said. Malik took a breath. Not deep, not dramatic, just enough. "My brother didn't do this," Malik began, "and the state knows it." A few jurors shifted in their seats. Brooks crossed his arms. Malik continued. "I was told to trust the system," he said. "So I looked at it." He opened the folder. "Case after case," he said. "Same prosecutor, same shortcuts, same mistakes." Brooks slammed his hand on the table. "Objection," he snapped. "This is irrelevant." The judge raised a hand. "Overruled," he said calmly. "Let him finish." Malik nodded, grateful. "These aren't opinions," Malik said. "These are records." He placed one document on the screen. "Case number 17-482, Malik said. "Eyewitness claimed certainty, later recanted." Another page. "Case 18-311, edited footage, conviction overturned." Another. "Case 19-204, evidence disclosed after trial." The room grew quieter with each example. Malik's voice never rose. He didn't need it to. Angela stepped beside him. "These cases were never mentioned to the defense," she said. "And they should have been." The judge's expression hardened. "Mr. Brooks," he said, "were you aware of these reversals?" Brooks hesitated. "Yes," he admitted. "And did you disclose them?" "No," Brooks replied. The judge closed his notebook slowly. A juror raised her hand. The judge nodded. "Your Honor," she said, "are we allowed to consider prosecutorial misconduct?" The judge paused, then answered carefully. "Yes," he said, "if it affects credibility." Brooks looked like he'd been punched. Angela returned to the podium. "One final piece," she said. She played the last clip. A wide-angle view from the private camera, clear, uncut. The second car was visible, the driver's door opening, a figure stepping out. Not Marcus. The timestamp froze. Angela turned to the jury. "The state asked you to believe a story," she said. "But stories fall apart when facts show up." The judge stood. Everyone else followed. "I am ordering an immediate suspension of proceedings," he said. "This court will reconvene after a full review." He looked directly at Marcus. "Mr. Johnson," he said, "you are released on your own recognizance, effective immediately." Malik's breath caught. Marcus's knees nearly gave out. The chains were removed. For the first time in weeks, Marcus stood free. As the courtroom emptied, the judge stopped Malik. "Young man," he said quietly, "why did you do this?" Malik didn't hesitate. "Because no one else would," he replied. The judge nodded once, slowly. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Marcus wrapped Malik in a hug so tight neither of them spoke. Across the steps, Brooks walked away alone. Head down, hands shaking. That night, Malik finally slept. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because when the truth comes out, it doesn't stop at one case. Freedom didn't feel loud. There were no cheers, no music, no celebration, just silence. Marcus sat on the edge of his bed that night, staring at his hands like he didn't recognize them anymore. The bruises were still there. The memories were louder than the pain. Malik watched him from the doorway. "You okay?" Malik asked quietly. Marcus nodded, but he didn't look okay. The next morning, the news broke. Not in whispers. Headlines spread fast. Evidence withheld in Johnson case. Teen exposes prosecutorial misconduct. Courtroom shocks city. Reporters camped outside the apartment building. Cameras followed Malik to school. Teachers stopped lessons when he entered the room. Some students clapped, others stared. Malik didn't respond to any of it. He had learned something important. Attention fades. Truth doesn't. Inside the courthouse, panic moved faster than paperwork. Files were pulled, cases reopened, meetings called behind closed doors. Federal investigators requested records from Evan Brooks's office, not just one case, all of them. Brooks didn't show up to work. His voicemail was full, his email unanswered. Angela called Malik late that afternoon. "They're expanding the review," she said. "Every conviction Brooks touched is under scrutiny." Malik sat down slowly. "How many?" he asked. Angela exhaled. "Dozens," she replied. "Possibly more." Malik closed his eyes. He thought of the folders on his laptop. He thought of the names, faces, lives. Marcus struggled. Freedom didn't erase what happened. He woke up at night sweating, jumped at loud noises, flinched when doors closed too hard. Malik stayed close. They talked more than they ever had before. Not about the case, about childhood, about mistakes, about fear. Marcus finally admitted it one night. "I thought about taking the deal," he said. Malik froze. "I almost said yes," Marcus continued. "I didn't think I'd survive another month in there." Malik swallowed. "But you didn't," he said. Marcus shook his head. "Because you didn't let me." The court reconvened a week later. This time the room was packed. But the energy was different. No laughter, no confidence, just tension. The judge entered slowly. Evan Brooks wasn't there. Instead, a senior attorney stood in his place. The judge didn't waste time. "This court finds that evidence was knowingly withheld," he said, "that constitutional rights were violated." He paused. "All charges against Marcus Johnson are dismissed with prejudice." The gavel struck. Final. Outside, Marcus stood taller. But Malik noticed something else. The judge approached them, not as an authority, as a man. "I was wrong," the judge said quietly, "and I apologize." Malik nodded, not smiling, not angry, just listening. That evening, Malik received an email. Subject line, Georgetown Law, scholarship offer. He stared at it for a long time. Marcus read it twice, then a third time. "You earned this," Marcus said. Malik shook his head. "We earned it," he replied. Across the city, Evan Brooks resigned. Quietly. No press conference, no explanation. An internal memo confirmed an ongoing investigation. Past convictions were being reviewed. Some inmates were already being released. Malik sat at his desk that night. Laptop open. Folders still there. He didn't delete them. He added one more. A new title. Not finished. Because for Malik Johnson, justice wasn't revenge. It was responsibility. The calls didn't stop. They came from people Malik had never met, from numbers he didn't recognize, from voices that sounded tired and desperate. "My son was convicted by Brooks. My husband never got a fair trial. I think the same thing happened to us." Malik listened to every message. He didn't promise anything. He didn't give false hope. He just took notes, names, dates, case numbers. The folder on his laptop grew heavier. Angela warned him. "You're stepping into dangerous territory," she said. "Some people don't want the past reopened." Malik understood, but he also knew something else. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Federal subpoenas followed. Emails were seized, phones examined, internal memos pulled from servers no one thought would ever be touched. Patterns emerged, pressure to close cases quickly, instructions to tighten narratives, reminders that wins matter. The investigation report was leaked. It didn't name Malik. It didn't need to. Everyone knew. Marcus testified before a review board. He spoke calmly. No anger, no exaggeration, just facts. What the cell was like, what the guards ignored, what fear feels like when you know you're innocent. Several board members looked away. One wiped his eyes. Then came the arrests. Not dramatic, no flashing lights, just quiet knocks. Thomas Walker was taken into custody for conspiracy and perjury. The contractor tied to the second vehicle lost his license, then his contracts, then his freedom, and finally, a warrant was issued for Evan Brooks. Misconduct, evidence tampering, civil rights violations. The man who never lost was finally accountable. The city reacted slowly, too slowly for some. Protests formed outside the courthouse. Signs rose. How many more? Justice delayed. We were right. Malik watched from a distance. He didn't join the crowds. He was already planning the next step. A community meeting was held in a small church basement. No cameras, no press, just people. Men and women who had lost years. Parents who had lost children. Children who had grown up visiting prisons. Malik stood at the front, not as a hero, as a listener. I can't fix everything, he said, but I can help you be heard. One by one they spoke. Stories spilled out, and Malik wrote them all down. Late that night, Malik sat alone. He opened the scholarship email again. Georgetown Law, full ride, living stipend, a future that once felt impossible. Marcus sat beside him. You don't have to carry this alone, Marcus said. Malik nodded. I know, he replied, but I have to carry it forward. Weeks later, the final court session arrived. The same courtroom, same walls, same benches, but no laughter. The judge addressed the room. This court failed, he said, and this community paid the price. He looked directly at Malik. Your actions forced accountability, he continued. That matters. Malik didn't smile. He didn't need to. As people filed out, a woman stopped him. Older, tired eyes. My husband comes home next week, she said quietly. Because of you. Malik swallowed. Because of the truth, he replied. Outside, the sun was setting. Marcus stood beside his brother, free, still healing, still learning how to breathe again. You ready for what comes next? Marcus asked. Malik looked ahead. I am, he said. Now. The attention faded faster than Malik expected. News cycles moved on. Cameras disappeared. Headlines shrank to footnotes. But the consequences stayed. Malik learned that truth doesn't end a fight. It starts one. Letters began arriving, not emails, not messages, handwritten letters, from prison, from men who had watched their appeals fail year after year, from women who had stopped believing anyone would ever listen. Some thanked him, others warned him. You don't know who you're upsetting. People don't forgive exposure. Be careful. Malik read every word. He didn't reply to all of them, but he never ignored them. Angela noticed the change first. You're not sleeping, she said. Malik shrugged. Sleep feels like quitting, he replied. Angela frowned. That's how people burn out, she said. Malik didn't answer, because deep down, he knew she was right. Marcus tried to return to normal life. He applied for jobs. He went to interviews. And every time, the same pause. Same glance at the background check. Same polite rejection. We'll call you. They never did. Marcus came home quieter each day. Malik saw it. The injustice hadn't ended. It had shifted. One evening, Malik overheard Marcus on the phone. I understand, Marcus said softly. Yes, I know how it looks. He hung up and stared at the wall. Malik sat beside him. They still see the charges, Marcus said, even though they were dropped. Malik clenched his jaw. That's not fair, he said. Marcus gave a tired smile. Fair doesn't come automatically, he replied. It has to be forced. Malik nodded slowly. The scholarship orientation arrived. Malik walked across the campus, surrounded by students who talked about internships and summer plans. None of them knew what he carried. None of them had stood in a courtroom while laughter echoed behind them. Malik sat in the back row, listened, observed. He wasn't there to blend in. He was there to learn how systems hide. A professor approached him after class. "I know who you are," she said quietly. Malik stiffened. "That's not why I'm here," he replied. She nodded. "I know," she said, "and that's why you belong here." The threats escalated. Anonymous messages, voicemails with no words, just breathing. Angela urged caution. "Don't walk alone," she said. "Change your routines." Marcus worried. "You didn't save me just to lose yourself," he said. Malik met his eyes. "I'm not lost," he replied. "I'm focused." Then came the civil case. Families filed suit. Not for money, for acknowledgement. Depositions were scheduled, emails subpoenaed, and suddenly Malik's name appeared again, not as a defendant, as a witness. During testimony, Malik spoke calmly. He explained how he found the footage, how the records matched, how patterns emerged. Opposing attorneys tried to rattle him. "Are you a lawyer?" one asked. "No," Malik replied. "Then how can you be sure of your conclusions?" Malik paused. "Because the truth lines up," he said. "Lies don't." The room went quiet. Outside the building, Marcus waited. "How'd it go?" he asked. Malik exhaled. "It's heavier than I thought," he admitted. Marcus nodded. "But you're still standing," he said. Malik looked up at the sky. Gray clouds, heavy, but moving. That night, Malik opened his laptop. The folder labeled "Not Finished" blinked on the screen. He added a new subfolder, Reform. Because revenge had never been the goal. Repair was. Change didn't arrive with applause. It came quietly, in meeting rooms with no windows, in late-night calls that ended with long silences, in policies rewritten by people who never planned to rewrite them. Malik watched it happen from the outside, and then, slowly, from the inside. The city announced a review panel, independent, public, unavoidable. Cases flagged by the federal investigation were reassigned. Old evidence was re-examined. New standards were introduced, on paper at least. Malik didn't celebrate. He had learned something important. Paper promises don't save lives. People do. Marcus finally found work, not because the system fixed itself, but because a small business owner took a chance. No questions, no background checks, just a handshake. Marcus came home that night smiling for the first time in months. "They didn't ask about the case," he said. "They just asked if I could start Monday." Malik smiled, too. Small victories mattered. At school, Malik was asked to speak. Not at rallies, at classrooms, young students, public defenders in training, community organizers. He kept it simple. "Don't assume," he told them. "Verify." He showed them how to request records, how to read timestamps, how to question narratives that arrived too neatly packaged. He wasn't preaching. He was teaching survival. One afternoon, Malik received a message from an unknown sender, just one sentence. "You embarrassed the wrong people." Angela insisted he report it. Malik saved it instead. Not out of fear, out of clarity. Change always threatens someone. The civil suits reached settlements, quiet ones, no admissions of guilt, no press conferences, but funds were allocated for legal aid, for independent oversight, for public access to footage. It wasn't justice, but it was leverage. The judge who once dismissed Malik issued a public statement, carefully worded, legally safe, but one line stood out. "I failed to listen when it mattered." Malik read it twice, then closed the tab. Apologies don't undo harm. Action does. At Georgetown, Malik found his footing. He studied procedure, evidence law, ethics. He asked uncomfortable questions. Professors noticed, not because he was loud, but because he was precise. Marcus visited campus one afternoon. They sat under a tree, watching students rush past. "You ever wish this never happened?" Marcus asked. Malik thought for a moment. "I wish it didn't happen to you," he said, "but I don't wish I looked away." Marcus nodded. "That's the difference," he said. The folder on Malik's laptop was reorganized, old cases archived, new projects opened. One file stood out. Community review protocol, not a slogan, a system, steps anyone could follow, so the next Malik wouldn't have to start from scratch. That night, Malik received a final message. No threat, no praise, just 3 words. They're watching you. Malik closed his laptop, looked out the window, and kept going. The trial that changed everything didn't end with a verdict. It ended with consequences, slow ones, heavy ones, the kind that don't make headlines, but rewrite lives. Evan Brooks stood alone in a quiet courtroom months later. No cameras, no jury, just a judge, 2 attorneys, and a stack of documents thicker than any case file Malik had ever seen. Charges were read carefully: evidence suppression, civil rights violations, abuse of prosecutorial discretion. Brooks didn't argue, he didn't smile, he didn't recognize the room that once bowed to him. When the judge asked if he understood the charges, Brooks nodded. Yes, he said quietly. And for the first time, he sounded small. Across the city, review boards continued their work. Convictions overturned, sentences reduced, appeals granted, names were called. Some men walked out of prison after decades. Others received letters that started with the same words: "We regret to inform you." Too late. Malik read every outcome. The wins didn't erase the losses, but they mattered. Marcus watched the news from the couch, not with anger, with disbelief. "All those years," he said softly. "They really let this happen." Malik sat beside him. "They didn't let it," he replied. "They ignored it." Marcus nodded. That's worse. At Georgetown, Malik faced his hardest moment yet. A professor challenged him publicly. "You've exposed failures," she said. "But how do you prevent abuse without paralyzing the system?" The room went quiet. Malik didn't rush. "Transparency doesn't paralyze," he said. "It disciplines." The professor studied him, then smiled. The community center opened quietly. No ribbon cutting, no speeches. Just doors unlocked and lights turned on. Inside, volunteers helped people file requests, read transcripts, understand rights they were never taught. Malik didn't run it. He trained others to. That was the point. One evening, Malik received a letter, handwritten, no return address. "I was on that jury," it read. "I laughed at first. I didn't know why you were so calm." Malik paused. "You changed how I listen," the letter continued. "I'm sorry." Malik folded it carefully. Not for forgiveness, for proof. Marcus stood in front of a mirror that night, tie straight, back steady. "You ready?" Malik asked. Marcus smiled. "I've been waiting for this." Marcus was starting his own program, helping recently released men reintegrate. Jobs, housing, support, not charity, structure. The final hearing came without warning. A judge requested Malik's presence, not as a witness, as a consultant. When Malik entered the courtroom, no one laughed. No one whispered. They listened. The judge spoke quietly. "You forced this system to look at itself," he said. "That comes with a cost." Malik nodded. "I know," he replied. The judge leaned forward. "And you still did it." Malik met his eyes. "Yes," he said, "because someone had to." Outside, Marcus waited. "How was it?" he asked. Malik exhaled. "Heavy," he said. Marcus smiled. "Good," he replied. "Means it mattered." That night, Malik sat at his desk, laptop open. The folder not finished was still there, but now it wasn't a warning. It was a promise. The courtroom was quiet, not the tense kind of quiet that comes before a verdict. A different one. The kind that settles in after the truth has already spoken. Malik stood near the back wall, hands folded, watching people file out slowly. No one rushed. No one talked over each other. They had learned how heavy silence could be. Marcus waited by the door, free, present, still healing. "You ready?" Marcus asked. Malik nodded. "Yeah," he said. "I think so." Outside, the city moved like it always had. Cars passed. People argued on phones. Someone laughed too loudly at a cafe. Life didn't pause for justice. It never does. Malik walked down the courthouse steps, feeling something unfamiliar. Not pride, not anger, relief. Not because it was over, but because it was real. Weeks passed, then months. The noise faded. The work didn't. Malik spent long nights reading drafts of policy changes that would never carry his name. He corrected language, flagged loopholes, asked questions no one wanted to answer. Sometimes they listened, sometimes they didn't, but they always knew he was there. Marcus found his rhythm. Work in the mornings, community meetings at night. He learned how to listen to men who spoke in fragments, who didn't trust hope yet. "I can't promise miracles," Marcus would say, "but I can promise I won't disappear." People believed him, because he hadn't disappeared when it mattered most. One afternoon, Malik returned to the same courtroom, not for a trial, for a training. Young public defenders filled the seats. Judges sat in the back rows. Clerks took notes. Malik didn't lecture. He told one story, about a 30-second clip, about 15 minutes that were hidden, about how laughter almost ended a life. He ended with one sentence. "Never assume the file tells the whole story." No one laughed. That evening, Malik walked alone. No security, no cameras, just streetlights and quiet. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Because of you, my brother came home today." Malik stopped walking, read it again, then once more. He typed a reply. "I'm glad you didn't give up." He put the phone away and kept walking. Years later, people would ask Malik when it all changed. They expected a dramatic answer, a turning point, a victory speech. Malik always gave the same response. "It changed when people stopped laughing," he said, "and started listening." The old courtroom still stood, same walls, same benches, but the echo was gone. No laughter lingered there anymore, only memory and accountability. On a quiet morning, Malik opened his laptop one last time. The folder not finished was still there. He smiled and renamed it Ongoing. Because justice isn't a moment, it's a practice. Marcus knocked on the door. "You coming?" he asked. Malik closed the laptop, stood up. "Yeah," he said. "I'm ready." They stepped outside together, two brothers, still standing. And this time, no one was laughing.